Shut up and sit down.
A couple of years ago, Tesla launched the Model 3 straight into the heart of the subcompact sports saloon sector, dominated by the BMW 3 Series, Audi A4 and Mercedes-Benz C-Class. But it has been a considerable success. In fact, in March 2021, the Model 3 was 4th in the UK registration chart, ahead of the Volkswagen Golf and the dominant BMW 3 Series. In fact, it was only 821 units behind the second place Ford Fiesta. But as we know, the EV world is ever changing. In fact, it grows faster than a plant from the little shop of horrors. So, given the fact that there's some much newer and very polished competition out there, has the updated 2021 Model 3 still got what it takes? Well, in the act of consumerism for you guys, here at AutoEV, we're going to find out. Before we go on to this week's review of the new 2021 Model 3 from Tesla, there is of course that time for me to tell you to like the videos, subscribe to the channel and press the little bell icon down below so you receive notification of when our next film goes live. If you do that, I'll be so grateful. I'll give you my 100% guarantee that Dominic Cummings has not leaked any text messages from the AutoEV team. So meet the new boss. Well, same as the old boss really. They haven't really changed the styling of the Model 3 at all, and I think that's probably one of the car's Achilles heels, if I'm honest with you. I've never been a great fan of the styling of Teslas. I mean, as I said before in my first test of the performance model we had, it's neat and inoffensive and it hasn't changed anything. I still think it looks a little bit awkward from the front, and this kind of weird sort of like guppy mouth doesn't do it much favours. One thing I will say they have changed, and was one thing I criticised it for, is they've got rid of the chrome now. Cheap kind of chrome look, and they've all got the satin black finish now. This is a mid-spec model, the long range all-wheel drive, and it gets these nice aero sort of like style alloy wheels as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, not much has really changed here. I kind of get the feeling that there was a meeting at Tesla between the engineering department geeks and the design department with their black polo necks and thick-rimmed glasses. And the tech guys went, we've made it really aerodynamically efficient for a model, a modern electric car. And the designers went, yeah, but what about the flair? What about the passion? And the geeks kind of looked at each other and went, but it drives itself. And that was it. The argument was lost and the meeting was over. I'd just like to have seen a bit more je ne sais quoi about it, a bit more of a flair. As it is, it kind of still looks, well, the same really. One area where I have to applaud, however, is you now get double glazing on the doors. They're still frameless doors, but you do get double glazing, which does help with refinement. So well done Tesla there. And around the back, yep, it's the same. Now, we did have a performance model the first time we tested the Model 3, which gets the little carbon kind of blade spoiler, but on this, the long range all-wheel drive and the standard range plus model, the base car, you don't get that. Nothing. No flair. Just the same. Sorry, this could be a really short video, couldn't it? Now, as I've said before, the Tesla Model 3 looks like a hatchback, but it isn't. It's a conventional saloon car with a boot lid. And the reason it's not a hatch is because then if it was, you wouldn't get that lovely big glass roof. Never mind. New electric boot. Whoa, well done Tesla. They've also improved the guttering around here and the ceiling, so no longer does your luggage get soaked after a big rain shower when you open the boot lid. So that's a good practical thing. But it is quite a decent size of boot in all fairness, and you also get the practicality of the underfloor storage for your cables and such like there. So, do the suitcases fit? Well, here we go. One large suitcase. One medium suitcase and one cabin bag. So yes, and there's plenty more space. That's pretty good. And remember, it's a Tesla. There's one at the front too. See? Now, the 2021 model also comes with a heat pump now, which is great. So the boot in the front, or the frunk, or the fruit, or whatever you want to call it, is a little bit smaller, but again, still big for a couple of rucksacks or probably a little hold-all. perfect. Well, rear seat space hasn't changed, but it's good. Seat set for myself. I feel my legs are slightly pushed up a little bit, my feet on the ground, and I've got the seat set quite low, but you can still slide your feet underneath the front seat, so that's okay. But yeah, legroom's fine. Headroom's fine for me. I would think if you were crouching on 6 foot or above, you might find it a little bit tight in here. But what is just one of my favourite parts of this car is this big glass roof, as I say. So the rear window stretches all the way up to the centre of the roof, and then you've got one across the front. And even with this black interior, it does flood the cabin with light, and it just feels really open and airy, and I really do like that about the car. Obviously you've got, as you can see, Isofix points on the 2 outer seats. The middle seat's probably not ideal for an adult. I would say 3 kids across the back would be okay. And of course, you've got the flat floor. There's door bins in here. There's certainly enough space for a water bottle, and they've got the rubber matting on the bottom so things don't slide about and crash and bang. They've got little mat pockets here, and you get 2 USB-C charging ports in the back for iPads and such like. So yeah, excellent back here. And well, it's pretty much the same in here, but there has been an awful lot of small changes made to give a big improvement, in my opinion. Before, the central storage area had a sort of shiny black plastic covering on it, where you pressed it and they flipped up bin lids, and there was lots of storage, don't get me wrong. It's just it didn't feel quite quality enough, and it attracted a lot of fingerprints and dust and things, whereas now we've got this sliding lid to give access to this big storage bin down there, and you push it again for it to close. Get a couple of cup holders here, which is nice, but here they've changed to have a storage bin to have 2 wireless pads for charging mobile, and I love wireless charging in cars. I think it's a great idea. So you've got 2 pads there, and it's got a kind of suede back to it so the phones don't really slide around, which is great. But as before, it is the screen that dominates. Now, I love this screen, I really do. I like the interior of the Model 3 because it is so different to everything else that's out there. But I know in the Polestar video I said I now prefer the Polestar cabin, and I maintain that. I do prefer the Polestar cabin, and the reason being is it has a binnacle in front of me where I can just grab a glance at things like speed and navigation and traffic without having to move across, my eyes move across into this big screen. Now I know I'm nitpicking maybe with that, and there's going to be people out there that still prefer this, and that's fine. I don't have an objection to it, but yeah, I prefer having a binnacle in front of me so I can grab a glance at what speed I'm doing. Maybe if they'd done a maybe head-up display or something, I'm surprised they haven't. That might have maybe alleviated that complaint, if you like. What I do like about it is where it's positioned, because when I sit here I can see the whole base of the windscreen, so nothing interrupts that view of the windscreen, and that's a really good safety feature from Tesla. And of course it still has all the things that we've been used to with it. You know, you can gain access to your car adjustments to adjust your mirrors and steering wheel. The wheel itself, again, it's retained. It's that nice sort of fully round, which is odd when you have a look at what they're proposing for the Model S and Model X next year, this kind of yoke style steering wheel, which just, no. Elon, keep it round please. It's a car, I want a round steering wheel. Yeah. But again, let's go back to this. It is relatively nice and easy to use. I mean, anybody coming into this car within 5 minutes is going to know where everything is. As I said before, if you're used to using a smartphone or a tablet these days, it's all there. It's nice and easy to use. The rest of the cabin, yeah, again, improvements. You can see that the build quality has improved from before, but it's still just okay, and I think at this price I want it to be more than just okay. Just silly little things that the wood capping doesn't quite meet up there, and you know, there's just, you know, the column stocks, they still feel a bit plasticky to me, and as I say, you maybe think it's nitpicking, but I just feel, you know, come on Tesla, you know, you're on the market, you're going up against some really established company like BMW, Mercedes, and obviously Polestar now. Those are the things that I want to see you do better at. I get the tech and it's great, but the basics, let's get the basics right now. Now, away from silly acceleration figures and traffic light Grand Prix on YouTube, it's the Tesla's range and ease of use that always impresses me. The car comes in two battery sizes. The standard car comes with a 50 kilowatt hour battery, or the long range all-wheel drive like this one, or performance model gets a 77 kilowatt hour battery. On this mid-spec long range all-wheel drive, that should give, according to WLTP figures, a range of around about 360 miles. Reality, it's probably 280 to 300 miles, which is still impressive. But it's the rate of charge the car takes that always gets me. This car will take charging speeds up to 170 kilowatts, meaning you can add 172 miles of range in 15 minutes. I take longer to buy a cup of coffee. You also got access to Tesla's supercharging network, but you're not limited to that. Bear that in mind, because the car comes equipped with a CCS charging port. If you're charging up from home, if you have an 11 kilowatt wall box, then you can go from empty to full in 7 hours. If it's a 7 kilowatt wall box you've got, then it flips round. It takes 11 hours to charge it from full. So Tesla's party piece has always been that kind of YouTube traffic light Grand Prix scenario, and the new Model 3 doesn't disappoint. It still puts out just over 430 brake horsepower via twin motors. It has a motor in the front axle, motor at the rear. And it's quite clever. It can distribute torque digitally, depending obviously where it needs to go. So it's quite a clever system. And it'll launch the car to 60 miles an hour from rest in just over 4 seconds. Now that is biblically fast for what is a 4-door family saloon car. But that only really tells part of the story. And whilst, yes, I did say, and I still stand by it, its chassis is much better than the Model S, it still falls short of the Polestar 2, I'm afraid. Now, when I say that, what I'm saying is it's lacking that sort of final polish. What happens is the car is firmly sprung, and I'm not talking about the ride being firm. What I'm talking about is the way the car actually deals with you know, expansion joints and changes in surface and dips in the road and, you know, sort of like crevices and such like that it hits. A lot of that is transferred from the suspension through the structure of the car. Now, if that's happening, in my opinion, the chassis is not up to the job, and that's where I feel is happening. You just tend to get that shudder when you hit something. You get the whole car seems to just shake and things, and rather than the suspension dealing with it, the whole car's being asked to deal with it, and that's not good. I don't think it's lacking that final polish that the Polestar 2 has. The steering's okay. I mean, again, you can alter the setting of it. I've got it set up to be quite firm. I like a helm that's geared towards unassisted rather than over assisted, so you can change that. There's not a huge amount of feel from it, but you know, again, it turns the car. You can tell where the wheels are pointing, and that's okay. And as I say, the ride quality itself, if you've been used to something like, say, a BMW M Sport product, Audi S line, AMG line, Mercedes, it's along those lines. So that's, you know, Tesla's hitting the market where it obviously wants to compete with, and that's absolutely fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about the way the car deals with the surface imperfections. The other area that I want to talk about is the brakes. Now, Tesla brakes aren't the best, to be honest with you. They're okay, but they're not the best, and you get the funny feeling that they wouldn't, you know, they take quite a pounding and they start to fade quite a bit. And that is still the case. You know, I just get the impression that there's a bit of deadness to the pedal, there'd be a bit of fade in there. But what is good is the regen, because you can set it up so that it is very, very aggressive. So much so that even at sort of like speeds where we are at the moment along kind of country back roads, if you're coming up to a corner, rather than coming off the accelerator and using the brake, you can be so aggressive that it just takes a minor pressure lift on the throttle pedal and the car slows down enough just to get you set up for the bend. It's really impressive the way you can do that. In fact, so much so, I've got it set up that if I take the foot off, even at something like 60, 70 miles an hour, and you take the foot off completely, the car will pull up to a complete stop and then hold itself on the brake. That is impressive, and I like that. And you can dial that in and out, you know, so you don't have to have it like that. But it means, obviously, by having it there, you spend less time on a brake pedal that doesn't actually have a lot of feel to it. So that's quite good. But on the whole, the car is, it's good, it's just not as good as the Polestar 2. That car just has that final veneer of, I don't know, as I say, I use the word polish a lot, but it's got that final veneer of engineering know-how on it, and you can really tell the difference. And I think it's the better car. This is still good, but the Polestar is better. Now, the Tesla Model 3 range starts at just over £40,000. This mid-spec long-range all-wheel drive that I have here is £48,000, including its metallic paint and enhanced autopilot feature. The top of the range performance model is a Nat's Chuff under £60,000. Now, given the UK government's decision to abolish the plug-in car grant for cars above £35,000 does have an effect on the first two models in the Model 3 range. But even so, at that £40,000 to £48,000, it's a lot of car for the money. So the main competitor for the Tesla Model 3 is, of course, the Polestar 2. And the Polestar 2's range has now increased because they've included cars with a slightly lower starting price. So it is, again, price-wise, bang on the Tesla Model 3. But as I said in the Model 3's initial road test and in the Polestar ones, these cars are now so good that you can compare them to combustion engine vehicles. So rivals are going to include, of course, things like the BMW 3 Series, the Mercedes C-Class and the Audi A4, and not to mention Volvo S60. So there is quite a lot out there at this price bracket for you to compare. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the 2021 Tesla Model 3. We like its range and charging capability, its performance, its ease of use, and its interior. We don't like its slightly dull styling, chassis limitations compared with some new arrivals, and the build quality in some areas still niggles. For 2021, Tesla have improved the Model 3, there is no doubt about it. They seem to have listened to their customers, and all those little nuances and annoying features of the car, they've changed. Don't get me wrong, you still get the Tesla Model 3 that we all know and love, so it's still a tech fest. You've still got that performance and all the little gadgets and access to the best charging network that's around. And for some, that's all that will matter. However, for us enthusiasts, for those of us who care how a car makes us actually feel inside, for those of us who get up that little bit early in the morning to take the long way to work, then I'm afraid the Model 3 has lost its reign to the Polestar 2. You see, that car just gives that final polish to its chassis that the Tesla just can't live with. Thank you for watching AutoEV. As always, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel and press the little bell button that's down below so you receive notification of when our next video goes live. And if you haven't been there, head over to autoev.co.uk for all your electric car news and our back catalogue of road test reviews. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.